So guys, I think it was about a year ago that I made my list of my top 10 favorite slasher films. And since it's been almost a year since I made that list, and I've watched quite a few slasher films since then, I thought I'd do a bit of an update video. So this is the top 20, my top 20 favorite slasher films. And it's gonna be hell to edit this video. Because I finally figured out how to do something that I've been wondering how to do for a long time. And you guys will see what that is soon enough. So, let's get into the video. Starting off at number 20 on our list is a slasher film based in a supermarket, probably the only slasher film based in a supermarket. It's from the late 80s, and it is Intruder. It is Intruder. Intruder is a really violent, fun slasher film. It stars Sam Raimi, the director of The Evil Dead. It's really violent, really fun, and kind of suspenseful, honestly. I honestly think it's probably one of the most overlooked slasher films of the 80s, and that's why it's on the list. Alright, and at number 19 we have the seasonal slasher film, another 80s one, Silent Night, Deadly Night. This one is a holiday classic for me. I mean, ever since I saw this about 2 years ago, I've watched it. I've made it kind of my tradition to watch this movie every year around Christmas time. It's on that list with movies like Don't Open Till Christmas, Christmas Evil, Black Christmas, Jack Frost. What can I say about this movie? It's a movie about a guy that's so afraid of Santa Claus, and then he goes to work at a supermarket, and then they decide, hey, let's get the guy who's mentally unstable and afraid of Santa Claus to be Santa Claus. And that ends badly for really almost everybody involved. Yeah. Alright. And at number 18 we have another lesser-known slasher film of the 1980s with effects done by the one and only Tom Savini, who did the special effects in Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th. And it is The Burning. The Burning is kind of a stereotypical slasher film, but honestly I think it's a really overlooked one. Not a ton of people know about it, although it does currently hold like a 6 out of 10 average rating on IMDb, which is a pretty above average, like decent rating. But I still feel like it doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. I really like this movie. It was on the infamous Video Nasty list. It's a movie about a caretaker at a camp, and he's set on fire after the kids pull prank on him. And that's really it. He comes back like a year later, get revenge and stuff like that. It's your usual kind of summer camp slasher. Alright, and at 17, probably the only 100% serious and realistic movie on this list, and probably one of the only movies on this list that's based on a true story. It is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. When I first saw this movie about a year and a half ago, I didn't really think it was that impressive. Upon rewatching it, like 6 or 7 months ago, I realized that I was wrong about it, and that this movie is actually pretty awesome, and it's a classic. It's based on the serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, and he claimed to have killed over like 300 people, I think, but he was only convicted for like maybe 10 murders. And this movie's basically just about him and his partner in crime, Otis. Him and Otis kind of going out and committing these murders and stuff. The movie's very bleak, and probably one of the reasons I didn't like it is because it was bleak, and while it was violent, it wasn't super violent or disturbing like people claimed it is, but that's kind of the point, I think, of the movie, honestly. Alright, and at number 9, we have Ryan Nicholson's own Gutterballs. This list would not be complete without Gutterballs. Gutterballs is probably one of my, it's on my top 20 You know, it probably is one of my favorites. But legitimately, it is probably one of the only sports-themed slasher films out there, other than The Catcher. And this one's a doozy. It's brutally violent. It's crazy. An 8-minute-long gang rape scene with a bowling pin. It is still hard to watch, even after I've seen this movie about maybe 4 or 5 times already. I don't think I'll ever encounter another film from Ryan Nicholson that'll be as good as Gutterballs, but I'm still going to watch more of his movies, definitely. Alright. And at 15, we have probably my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I honestly think this one's a bit underrated. It's a horror comedy, it's a bit stupid, it's kind of violent. I mean, for the time, it was probably... I know, like, when it was originally submitted to the MPAA, I'm pretty sure it got, like, an X rating. But now, I mean, this movie gets played on cable TV uncut. So, you know, it's you know what I mean. The movie itself, like, Leatherface and his clan have now, like, held up in a, like, war-themed, amusement park. And it's a little ridiculous and stupid and cheesy, but I think that's what makes it so fun, and that's what makes it one of my favorites. Alright, and at 14 we have Happy Birthday to Me. The second birthday-themed slasher film on this list. I bet you guys can't guess the other one. Happy Birthday to Me revolves around this girl, and like her birthday's coming up, and her friends are all getting murdered one by one. And it's one of those movies where it wants you to believe that one person is the killer, and then it's like, no wait, this guy's the kid, no wait, this guy. And it kind of goes back and forth. It's a little bit of a whodunit. It's a pretty violent movie. It's fun, it's creepy, it's suspenseful, the music is absolutely fantastic. And it's another 80s slasher film that I think doesn't get enough recognition amongst the horror community, honestly. Alright, and at 13 we have the only other birthday-themed slasher film on our list, Bloody Birthday. Bloody Birthday. I saw this one before I saw Happy Birthday to Me. I forget if Bloody Birthday is still on Netflix, but it is basically like one of the earlier killer children movies, and it's about these 3 kids, and they are all, like, they're not related, they're not brother and sister, like, they're just separate kids. They all live in the same town, in the same neighborhood though, and they were all born on the same day, around the same time, during a solar eclipse. And this basically means that they're completely insane, and once they become like 10 or 13 years old, they start killing people. Even though throughout like their entire life so far they've been like killing animals and all this other stuff. It's a pretty good movie, another one that I think doesn't get enough recognition, and I definitely give it a solid suggestion. Alright, and at number 12 on our list we have You're Next, probably one of the best slasher films I've seen in recent years. This one has to do with, honestly, I thought when I first saw it, I was like, this is kind of like Hotline Miami. People in animal masks breaking into people's houses and killing them. And it really breaks the normal notions of like the home invasion slasher. And it really messes with your stuff. It really messes with your expectations. It surprises you. It definitely doesn't have a lot of cliches. It kind of does a bit of a self-parody. The movie's violent, it's fun, and it's a bit creepy at times. Also, the music is absolutely fantastic. Very fantastic, like synth music and stuff like that. At least I think that's what it is. I might be confused. It's been a while since I've watched it. I might have to watch that today, actually. Alright, and at 11 we have the Friday the 13th series, but more specifically the first, at least, 4 Friday the 13th movies, because those are like my 4 favorites. Out of the first 4, I'd probably have to say maybe it's a tie between which one's my favorite, between the first one and the fourth one. The fourth one is like the one where Jason is finally the zombie we know him as, but in part like in part one it's his mother, and that's always really cool because a lot of people are like, oh, Friday the 13th, it's just Jason, but it's actually Mrs. Voorhees. The movies are violent. They were infamous. They were banned in Switzerland, I think, or Sweden, some kind of European country that starts with the letter S. They were banned there for like their extremely graphic violence, and I remember hearing that and thinking, those movies aren't really that bad. But looking back, I could definitely see why they were banned in the early 80s. A lot of people like to call the movie The Burning a ripoff of Friday the 13th because it came out like a year, like the same year. But when in actuality, The Burning was in production years before Friday the 13th was in production. So I'm not saying nothing's a ripoff. I would just like to mention that as a cool kind of little, I guess, trivia. Ooh, we're already halfway there. Ugh. And at 10 we have the Halloween series. I don't think any list of the best slasher films could be complete without these films. These films are probably the quintessential horror films. If you claim to be a horror fan and you have not seen at least the first Halloween, you are not a fan. Personally, my favorites, more specifically that are on this list, are the third one and the first one. The second one, I honestly don't think is that great. It's kind of just, it's really just a rehashing of the first one because people wanted more of the first one. And then the third one came out and everybody's like, hey, where's Michael? And I guess I can't really put the third one on this list because it's not really a slasher film, but because it's part of a series of slasher films, I kinda want to and I kinda have to, considering it's also one of my favorites in the series. Alright, and at number 9 on the list, we have the Nightmare on Elm Street series. More specifically, probably the first one and the third one. Those two are my all-time favorites. I think the third one might just be my all-time favorite because it threw in a lot of fantasy elements and a lot of really cool stuff. And really, the first sequel, while it is probably the worst in the series, I still like it. It's still kind of fun. And to learn some of the theories about how it's actually about, like, how Freddy in the movie actually represents the main character's, like, suppressed homosexuality. It's kind of a cool thing to read about and everything, but, I don't think I really need to explain the plot to these ones. These ones are, plain and simple guy killing people in their dreams, and these movies are kind of based on a true story, I guess. Guess that's it. And at number 8, we have the film that is part found footage, part mockumentary, part comedy, part slasher, and it is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Behind the Mask is another one that I think is kind of underrated. It's fun, it's funny, it's interesting, it kind of explains the tropes and cliches of slasher films, and it also does the whole self-parody thing like a lot of slasher film, like some slasher films like to do, and I really dig that. The fact that this movie is also like based in a world where Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and all those guys were like real people in the universe that this film is based in, and that the main character who wants to be the next like Jason or Freddy, he's become like he's inspired by these people. I think it's really cool movie. I'd definitely say check it out. Alright, and at 7 we have the original Maniac. I may as well say the original and the remake of Maniac because I really like both of those films, but I'm gonna say mostly the original. The original Maniac is one of those slash films that you watch and you feel kind of bad and dirty about watching it because it's so lowbrow and a little ridiculous and stupid, but it's also like, I want to say like Alfred Hitchcock like levels of psychological horror and torment is going on in this film, and that's one of the really cool things about this movie, because honestly, when I first watched it, I went in expecting just some kind of really crazy violent slasher film, and I got a crazy violent slasher film with a bit of meaning and, you know, characters that are kind of interesting and likable, and it's not super cliched, and the main character's like horrifically tormented, and the ending to the film is an absolute shock. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen this one and you're a fan of slasher films, I definitely say give it a watch. Alright, and at 6 we have the first Lucio Fulci film on this list, and one of the Fulci films that I really like that I don't own yet. It is House by the Cemetery. I know someone's going to argue and say that this isn't really a slasher film because the villain is kind of a zombie, but I'm going to go ahead and say, if I'm going to put the Friday the 13th movies on here, I'm going to put this on here. So, eat it. It's a pretty creepy movie. It's violent. It's fun. The main kid is kind of annoying, although I mean, he's a lot more annoying than the kid in The Babadook, even though everybody's like, oh, that kid's super annoying. I'm like, have you guys fucking seen House by the Cemetery? Have you seen that movie? If you want an annoying child in a horror film, that kid is like the king of annoying children in horror films. I think that's really all I have to say about it. I definitely say give it a watch if you haven't already. It's one of Fulci's films that I honestly don't think is very popular, and it's often overshadowed by Zombie and The Beyond, which are two of the films that are often considered to be his best, when I honestly think House by the Cemetery and the other Fulci film on this list are far better than The Beyond. Alright, and next we have the somewhat Psycho-inspired Video Nasty, Don't Go in the House. The only slasher film that doesn't actually have slashings and it has burnings. Oh gosh, this movie. This movie is about a very Norman Bates-like character, and his mother dies, and he basically hears his mother's voice around the house after she's already dead, and his mother was apparently very abusive, and she like burned him when he was a child, so he constructs a solid metal room in his house to kill people in, and constructs a flame retardant suit and a flamethrower in the course of a few days, and goes out kidnapping women, putting them in the place, and setting them on fire. It's pretty crazy, and it has an ending somewhat similar to Maniac. Alright, now we get to the next Lucio Fulci, and the last Lucio Fulci film on this list. It is my absolute favorite Fulci film and one of his most overlooked movies, Cat in the Brain, also known as The Nightmare Concert. Cat in the Brain is basically about the director himself slowly going insane from making splatter films, and he goes to a psychiatrist who is like, oh, you know, I'll fix everything, and actually it's the psychiatrist who's going out and killing people, and basically taking these journals of these like hallucinations that Fulci's having, and does the exact murders in the journals so people will think Fulci did it. It's pretty crazy. The ending, people don't really... some people really don't like the ending to the movie. I honestly think it's kind of brilliant, because of how the movie kind of displays everything, and how the movie is shot and put together. It kind of makes sense. I guess that's it. Alright, and next we have probably my favorite chainsaw slasher film from the 80s, Pieces. It's Pieces. Pieces is a really, like, so bad it's good, really fun, bad, violent slasher film about a guy that kills his mother when he's like 10 years old, and he ends up becoming a serial killer and killing college students in order to reconstruct his mother out of their body parts. It's kind of awesome, and it has a twist ending that nobody, and I mean nobody, sees coming. even I, who accidentally spoiled the ending for myself, when I watched the movie, I still kind of didn't expect it. I'm like, oh, this is probably some kind of joke. It is not a joke. And thankfully, it is not a joke. Alright, and at number 2, we have the film that I said might become my new favorite slasher film, but it did not. It is Alice, Sweet Alice. Alice, Sweet Alice is a slasher film I reviewed like a while ago, and I said that this may be my new favorite slasher film, and spoiler alert, it is at number 2. It is not my favorite, but it is definitely on the list. Alice, Sweet Alice has to do with this girl, has to do with these twin sisters, and one of them ends up getting killed. And the person who killed the sister was wearing like similar clothing, very, 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 very similar clothing to the one twin, like the same mask and raincoat and everything. And you start to think, oh, is it the sister that's killing these people? You know, it really messes with your expectations a bit. It's pretty violent. It's very, very creepy. The killer is beyond creepy. Honestly, I think it's another one that's kind of overlooked. Yeah. Alright, and at number 1, I think you guys should have seen this from a mile away, because my number 1 did not change. It is My Bloody Valentine, the original. Oh my gosh, it's still my favorite slasher film, and it is still my tradition to watch it every year around Valentine's Day. What can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It combines the atmosphere and, you know, really creepy feel of Halloween with the raw violence and gore of Friday the 13th. It was cut a bunch of times by the MPAA. There's no actual full-on, like, director's cut version of the movie out yet. Like, the closest you can get is still cut by a few minutes. It didn't get a director's cut release until the remake came out, you know, 29 years later. It's a pretty old movie. I mean, it's nearly like 35 years old now, and that's kind of sad, but it still really holds up. It's still violent, it's still fun. I still really, really love it. And if you have not watched it, I would highly, highly suggest it. Anyway, guys, I'm BiscuitBoo69. The links to the Facebook page, Twitter, Tumblr, all that, and Rotten Cotton t-shirts, where I get my horror film t-shirts, like my Cat in the Brain t-shirt. This is available. This one's available on their website. It's available on their website if you're interested. They got lots of cool stuff. My friend Chloe, her cosplay and makeup tutorial channel is in the description. Be sure to check her out. She does a lot of cool stuff. Be sure to recommend a movie if you want me to review anything specific. Anyway, guys, I'm signing off. Peace.